Well, hello, Glencill. Welcome to the Nutra Narratives podcast. I am so happy to have you with me.
And I'm happy to be joining you today as well.
Fabulous. Wonderful. So, Glencill, I'm going to take you back all the way to the beginning of time and ask you what sparked your interest to become a dietitian. Why was nutrition even appealing to you?
Well, Dr. Naval, you're really taking me far back.
Okay.
I can really start first by saying that my interest in nutrition and dietetics, I believe, has been designed and a calling from God. I can probably think about a number of circumstances that actually led me to this place, but ultimately I know that it has been a calling from God. Way back in my secondary school years, I should say, it probably was a moment when I was running away from my calling. I remembered as far back as my secondary school years, having this impression that I should probably pursue nutrition and dietetics as a career. I should say, though, that I was young. I was probably about 13, 14 years, could have been 12. But at that time, we were supposed to be choosing our subjects that we would want to pursue for our career. So we were actually choosing our subjects. And I remembered the closest subject at that time to nutrition and dietetics, at least in my view, was home economics. And I remembered dropping that class to take up subjects in the area of business. So I took up 2 business classes, and those were office procedures. And the other one was, back in the day, we did you would know, typewriting.
Oh, yes. That is such an important class that everybody should take when they're very young.
Yeah. So I took up typewriting and I dropped home economics. I felt at that time, though, that I would have been better able to get a job after leaving secondary school, maybe as a clerk, maybe as an office assistant or something like that. So I felt that that decision was a great decision. I really, at that time, was not thinking about tertiary education. I really was just thinking about getting a job. And so I dropped the course that was closest to home economics, to nutrition, which was home economics, and took up business.
Okay.
Wow. Once I was finished with school, I was about 17 years, and I started sending out all of the job applications, one after the other. I sent numerous applications out.
Wow, you were determined.
So many applications, and many businesses responded. But none of them offered me a job. I never got one saying, hey, here's a job offer. At that point in time, I was approaching 17, 18 years, and not hearing back from anybody. I mean, at that time, some of my prior classmates, schoolmates, I would see them working, and, I felt, well, why am I not getting ahead? Yes, there were some subjects that I needed to improve on, but I felt at the time I had the basic business subjects that at least could have landed me a clerical job or something like that, and I was not getting any offer. So at that time, many of my friends in church, because I grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist church, at that time, many of the persons I associated with, and there was a very close cousin as well, he was pursuing tertiary education, and many of them in the church who were about that same age, they were pursuing tertiary education. And I am not sure how I actually got to the place to start on this road to nutrition and dietetics, but I actually got interested in pursuing tertiary education because no job was coming. So, nutrition and dietetics came up, but the nutrition and dietetics was not offered in my country, in Barbados.
Yes.
at that time. So the next place to go would have been outside of Barbados, and that was Trinidad. In my mind, at that time, it was called Caribbean Union College, to
Oh,
pursue a program that I initially was told that it's nutrition, and I got excited, but then I discovered it was not nutrition.
oh
It was,
man.
home economics. I found out that before I got there, but I decided, look, this program has a built-in minor in food and nutrition. I can get to do a minor in health. This is the best option that I have. Go for it.
Yeah.
And that was where my journey started in educating myself as close as I could get to nutrition and dietetics.
Yes,
Started,
indeed.
yeah, I started there, and that journey was very exciting. Tried to learn as much. I chose my classes, those that I had the option to choose. I tried to choose as many health-related classes or nutrition-related classes. And at that time, we had a person at the time who was a missionary, and she was a registered dietitian. So I
Oh,
taught my nutrition classes. I sat at the feet of a registered dietitian, so I was really taught well.
beautiful. Wonderful. Yeah, I was wondering, how did you even know that dietitians exist? And so
Yeah.
there you go. You had in your midst.
Yeah, well, back then I knew dietitians that existed because even though the program was not offered here in Barbados, we have a pretty elaborate healthcare system and our hospitals, and we had
Oh,
nutritionists and dietitians working in various polyclinics across the country. So I knew dietitians that existed. It's just that I did not have a local program
I
to
see.
pursue here in my country.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Wow. So in your country then, because they didn't have a program, so you pursued that degree in
Yes,
Trinidad. Mhm.
yes, yes, I
And
did.
then from there, then you started working right away after that. What
Yes.
happened after you received your
So
degree?
after that degree, well, I should say before I move on there, I did have an opportunity while I was studying I reached out to our local nutrition department in Barbados
Oh,
and asked them for opportunity to volunteer during my summer break.
ooh, smart.
And they allowed me to volunteer. And at that time, they were having a nutrition summer camp. So
Ah,
the nutrition department was known for running these nutrition summer camps for children between the ages of 9 to 13 years. So
oh,
when I reached out to them, they were preparing to have this camp, and they allowed me to come, and I really enjoyed the opportunity to share and learn from them during that time. So that was my first experience. I was really keen on trying to get my feet in there. So
yeah.
that was my first experience trying to get through the doors.
Yes.
Once I was finished with my home economics degree, it's a home economics degree, I knew in the back of my mind that it really was not all that I wanted to do to get to do the job of a nutritionist or a dietitian. So
Okay.
I applied. I came back from Trinidad, and I applied to a number of places. I applied to schools, many schools, because that's where you find most of the home economics teachers. So
Ah,
I applied to many schools, and I did get a job. I got
okay.
a job.
Mm-hmm.
As part of the application process, though, I think I sent a letter to our local health ministry as well, because I was just applying to everybody that I can. I'm looking for a job, so I'm not just limiting myself.
Yeah.
And I got a job. I had an offer to work for 2 years as a home economics teacher, and I actually started that job. I came back in the summer, and I started working in September of the year.
Oh,
And
wow.
I started. So it was December, and we were on vacation break from school. Now I've just started a job, and I got a call. I was helping a cousin of mine take care of his newborn, and I got a call. Guess what? It was the department where I volunteered, and they were trying to reach me
Oh,
to offer me a job. No, I never applied to them because I felt that I needed to have this nutrition and dietetics degree, and it didn't make sense. Well, and the funny thing about it, that's why I tell you that I believe it's a calling from God, because they told me when I heard from them in December that they were trying to reach me for some time and they never were able to get hold of me. And this very last time they were trying, I wasn't at home. Well, again, that was back in the day when you didn't have cell phones.
Yeah. No cell phones, no internet.
You didn't have any right. You didn't have any cell phones, so you had to be near a landline to get the call. But through divine intervention, the officer was able to get hold of me and make arrangements for me to come in, bring in my qualifications, and that's how I actually got started. I felt badly in a way because I had to get back to the school and say, well, hey, I'm going to be moving on and I'm going to have to send in my resignation. But I was so excited to get this job offer. Now, I gather that my application letter was circulated because in the government service, you'll send your application, even though I didn't apply to my department, they would have probably sent my application letter to the central human resource department. And when they sent it off to the department, they already knew me because I was volunteering with them. And I also gathered from conversations that because of my home economics background, and they were always having these nutrition camps where they were doing a lot of practical sessions and so with children and teaching them how to prepare foods. And they actually had a pretty strong food demonstration and practical sessions as part of that process. Okay. They were reaching out to diversify the department. So God made a way that through their efforts to diversify the department, my home, they were able to embrace me and include me within that nutrition department. And with
I love it.
Training in nutrition, it also helped me and it prepared the way. So that's how I actually got my feet into working in the area of nutrition.
Could you imagine? I love your story. It's like you didn't have to seek out that job that you're talking about. You were being sought, and because you gave time through your volunteer work, they remembered you. Wow, that's something to remember. Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So then after that, what happened?
So I continued, I started to work and they placed me in the area of community nutrition, and that as you know, pretty extensive area where I was working in one of the clinics we have in Barbados. We have a pretty extensive polyclinic system with a number of health professionals working in each clinic. And I was assigned to a clinic to perform duties in the area of nutrition. And that was very exciting. I actually got to counsel patients. I relied heavily on my training. I remembered when I did that basic nutrition class and all of the health courses that I did, and then the experiences I learned from my other colleagues, because I was trying to soak in as much information, and the department also had quite an extensive amount of resources and journals and such like. So I would try to read and learn, and I worked there in the area of community nutrition. And also, as part of my responsibility, I had to work with the children annually in the same camp, the same type of camp that I volunteered with. So
awesome.
I was very familiar with that process. I was familiar with many of the recipes from the days when I volunteered. So it all came together. Beautiful. But I must say that I still had this longing to become qualified in nutrition and dietetics.
Okay.
And I tried my best to get my feet out again to become qualified. So I did work for some time in the department, and then I realized that you can have this opportunity to get study leave, but you have to work for a number of years. And I did apply before I was eligible, but eventually they granted me study leave.
Nice.
I left Barbados. At that time, I was now married. I had two children. I had that time I had twin boys, and they were
Oh.
3 years of age. And we all left Barbados and took the trip to Michigan to
Oh.
pursue nutrition and dietetics. And that was a dream come true.
Nice.
Opportunity to do a master's was there, but I wanted to register as a dietitian. That was my goal. I really wanted to know what is involved in this whole process
Yeah.
of being a registered dietitian. So that's where it all officially started academically towards that nutrition and dietetics qualification.
Excellent. And so you went to Andrews University, correct?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I attended
How many
Andrews
years was your schooling?
I spent 2 years at Andrews University. Now, let me backtrack a bit because that college I attended years prior in Trinidad, I did and accredited, it was affiliated with Andrews University. So my program that I did, my home economics program, was an Andrews University program. My degree was an Andrews University degree. So they readily accepted all of my credits because they knew that the coursework was was in keeping with their standards. So they accepted me. They readily accepted my credits. So I had met many of the prerequisites. So I just started that dietetics coursework from the time I got there. So that was great.
Yes, so true. And then did you stay in Michigan? No, you were on a leave, study leave. So did you go back right away to
I did
Barbados?
go back immediately after I finished my internship. And then I remember I wanted to do the RD exam.
Oh, yes.
And I was supposed to return back to work. I think it was in August. And by the time I was finished with my internship, etc., I remembered saying, well, you have about 4 weeks to really buckle down and do studying. I probably had a little bit more than that, but when everything else was considered, I remembered setting aside 4 weeks to do serious studying for the RD exam.
Wow.
And I remembered approaching the chair and asking him at that time, telling him that I was ready, and he looked at me and he said, "You think you're ready?" I said, "Yes." And that was I know he probably doubted. He probably doubted, and then he said, "You know what?" Yeah. So I got the opportunity to take the exam, and I did pass. Thanks to God, I passed the exam.
Amen.
And came back to Barbados.
Oh, wow. You sought out to accomplish your goal, and you did it with God's help.
Yes, and with God's help and the support, because I'm sure I felt in myself that maybe the chair would have doubted, but then his face looked as though afterwards that he had this kind of confidence that I can make, and that also helped to build my confidence.
Yeah.
And I got ahead. I was supported by the whole faculty, the team, and to go ahead and get this done. So
Love
thanks.
it. Love it. And so, Glencill, you went back and then you continued working in the same position you had.
Yes, I did. I came right back into community nutrition. By then I had been groomed and I had loved community nutrition. I had experienced clinical and working in the hospital in my internship, and I always thought to myself, this is not where I want to be.
Yeah.
I enjoyed those critical care rotations when I was there in the critical care unit in my internship, but I felt to myself, this is not where I want to be as a professional working in a hospital. I came right back into community nutrition. I enjoyed it. Beautiful. I felt that I was equipped to even build on the work that I had done previously, and I continued. I was pretty satisfied in that area. But then the opportunity came. There was retirement in the department and such like. And the opportunity came for me to advance up the career ladder. And that would have meant that it's a small department. So for me to move from community nutrition, I then would have moved to be assisting the head of department.
Wow.
Not a permanent post,
Okay.
but
Mhm.
the opportunity for it to become a permanent post was there.
Ah,
So I worked as in the assistant position for a period, and then I came back and I worked assistant, and that took me out of community nutrition into long-term care.
wow.
I Yes. So
But you know what? Your experience is so varied. It's so rich. It's
yeah,
so admirable.
yeah, thank you. So I moved from community nutrition and assistant now in long-term care. Now you would know that as assistant to the head, you also have some supervisory responsibility, and that would be for persons who are in community nutrition. So being that I had worked for an extended period of time in community nutrition, I very well knew the job.
Yeah.
But most of my responsibility was in long-term care, specifically in the area of food service department, supervising persons in food service.
That is
However,
fantastic.
even though that was my responsibility, I was the only person working there, and for the long-term care, the government long-term care facility, and I had a responsibility for three. Another officer assisted me, but I still had to have that supervisory relationship to find out what was going on in the other institution for the fourth one.
Mm.
So I could not see myself. The other person too was a trained registered dietitian, so thankfully we understand each other, the language, and we worked very well together, even though she wasn't working in my department.
Mhm.
And I often found myself in clinical, because how could you be working how could you be working in food service
Right.
without a registered dietitian on the wards and not get yourself involved? So even though
Very
that
true.
wasn't my responsibility, I found myself looking to see how I can um, make a contribution towards the enteral nutrition, and trying to improve some of the experiences, that the dietary experiences in the long-term care facility.
Yes. But look at this. If you're ever going to teach in the future, you've covered it all. You have experience in every area. So it makes you so valuable
Yeah.
to this profession.
I often say that we don't, when we are working here in Barbados, we don't have that specialty to work in the cardiac floor or to work in rehab or whatever. You work in all areas, but
Yeah.
it helps. It does help in terms of molding you as a professional.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. And so that's the current position that you have today.
Well, as you know, I'm a student now, but prior to becoming a student,
Uh-huh.
I then had the opportunity to move on from being the assistant. This was just months before becoming a student, though. Um,
Wow.
I took up the position. Again, this was not a permanent position, but the person retired,
Okay.
and I had the post was open, and I was asked to. I had the opportunity to work there as the head of the department.
Oh, congrats.
Yes, thank you. So before joining, I had about 6 months or so working as head of department, which was very interesting. Again, I was assistant, so for many years.
Mhm.
So I had an idea, I had an understanding as to what the head of department's work was about.
Yeah.
I wasn't in that role, but I worked closely with the head of department, so I did have an understanding.
Okay, excellent. And I know you're on a student or study leave. Will you be able to go back to that position when you get back?
Well, it's not guaranteed.
Okay,
It could happen, but I am basically guaranteed a job when I get back in the department.
nice.
It is likely, but there are no guarantees. But
Okay.
it's very likely.
And God will just continue to work that out for
And
you.
he would work it out. And if he doesn't, well, he knows what he's doing. And I
Mhm.
honestly, I'm not worried about that in any way, because he's in control.
That's right. There you go. So encouraging.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And we're loving having you as a student. And, the only thing that I'm sad about is that we're not having classes in person. So, we can't be around you, having you in class, but we technically have you in class in Zoom. So we're grateful for that.
Yes, we don't have those in-person classes, and yes, but that in itself has worked out to my advantage because even though I miss that person-to-person associations and such with other classmates and teachers, I really can still be here with my family while I'm studying. So that's a blessing in itself.
Amen. Amen. So true. There's always a silver lining to be grateful for in every situation.
Yes.
Okay, so Glencill, what are some nutrition practices that you personally like to follow yourself?
Okay. Let me just start by saying that I'm very keen on plant-based nutrition.
Yes.
I was exposed to that from way back coming up in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So I enjoy preparing dishes and using foods that are plant-based. Actually, I was reminding my mother only recently that I actually stopped eating meat products with the exception of fish at the age of 17. After 17, I did still have some fish products, but I do love plant-based foods and cooking it and preparing it. Another practice that I try to do, I try to make at least half of my grains whole grains. So whatever I am preparing, whether it is baking, whether I'm having cereals, whatever it is, I try to incorporate at least make half of my grains whole. And loving the plant-based nutrition, I can't help but love fruits and vegetables. So
yes,
I love to eat them, and you would see in my post, in my Instagram post.
Yes, I want you to tell our listeners where to follow you on Instagram. What is your handle?
And loving plant-based nutrition and loving fruits and vegetables. I support that with gardening. I love to grow food. I don't ever get enough time to do it that I would prefer, but I love to grow food. So I get involved in home gardening as well.
Nice. So you're sharing a lot of that information in your Instagram account. Yeah. So can you please share your Instagram name?
Oh, my Instagram name is Budget Friendly Nutrition.
Excellent. So everyone, you've got to be following our dear Glencill here because she has excellent information, nutrition information on exactly what she shared. And you get to take a sneak peek of her garden, Barbados. So you got to follow her.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so why don't we end with this, Glencill? I've loved spending this time with you. What is your favorite Bible verse that has been guiding you in life?
Yeah, my favorite Bible verse is taken from Matthew chapter 6, verse, I think it's in verse 30 or so, but it speaks to if God so clothed the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, it's withered, would he not much more clothe you? And this text came to me, I'm not repeating it word for word, but it is there in my spirit. When I was about 15 years of age, this was a text that I was inspired with by God.
Yeah.
He takes care of the grass of the field. He takes care of the sparrows. He takes care of everything. Right. And we are even much more precious to him. And he's going to take care of us despite the challenges that we go through, the day-to-day challenges. He clothed the grass of the field. He would clothe us. So let's all take faith. And that has been with me for many years. And I still think it's very dear to me.
I love that. Yeah, and that entire passage is just so beautiful. It reminds us that if God can take care of the grass, the birds, yes, what about you and me? Even more so.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your story about.
What a pleasure sharing.
Yes, you know, listening to your stories, listening to how a dietitian became a dietitian, how someone in Barbados became a dietitian. It's so beautiful to hear, because we always hear of those that become dietitians in the United States. You know, we hear that, so it's nice to hear Barbados. Not too long ago, we heard Dr. Leslie Ann Forrester Nicholas and her story in Trinidad and Tobago. So now it's so nice to hear your story in
Thank you.
Barbados.
Thank
See,
you.
God works everywhere in every country.
He does.
All right. Thank you so much, Glencill. May God bless you with finishing up the rest of this quarter.
Yes. Thank you too, Dr. Novell.
Okay. All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye.